Have you ever felt that your desire to support others can drain you, as if you were depleting your own internal resources? Carl Jung, an influential figure in depth psychology, warns of a subtle risk associated with this inclination. Welcome to Voyage Inconscient. Together, we will explore the depths of the psyche, the collective unconscious, and the teachings of Carl Jung. Get ready to discover new dimensions of yourself and the universe around us. Behind the most generous impulses, unconscious aspects may be hidden that, without us realizing it, erode our emotional balance. The need to provide help, considered an admirable virtue, often conceals internal processes that require careful observation. At times, this eagerness to assist others can become a mechanism to avoid facing our own insecurities or unmet needs. Thus, the act of helping may reflect deeper personal deficiencies, acting as a mirror of our own vulnerability. This tendency often has its roots in childhood when we sought recognition through external approval. It is common to fall into the mistaken belief that solving others' conflicts will bring the much-desired validation. However, this behavior can be counterproductive. Instead of healing our own wounds, we project those deficiencies onto our surroundings. Over time, offering help can turn into an escape route, a means of constructing an identity based on the role of protector or mediator. For instance, a person who is constantly at the service of their close circle may experience a profound emptiness when there are no more problems to solve. This reveals an emotional dependence on the feeling of being indispensable. In such cases, support does not arise from a state of fulfillment, but from a need for self-affirmation. Assuming the role of savior can also disrupt balance in relationships, creating a power dynamic that hinders others' development and feeds our own ego. To avoid falling into this trap, Jung suggests a more conscious approach to helping, promoting a balance between giving and receiving. Understanding our deepest motivations before taking action allows us to free both others and ourselves from unnecessary pressures. By accepting that we are not responsible for solving every problem, the act of helping becomes a genuine expression of affection rather than a projection of internal deficiencies. Acting from a place of personal balance enables us to respect each individual's developmental process. According to Jung, the hero archetype is a powerful figure that can be both inspiring and restrictive. It drives us to take on the role of savior, often in situations that exceed our capacities or responsibilities. Although the hero aspires to the best for others, they often do so at the expense of their own well-being. This figure arises from a deeply rooted cultural narrative, from classical myths to contemporary stories, in which the hero always emerges victorious against all odds. However, in everyday life, this role is far more complex and rarely concludes satisfactorily. By taking on others' difficulties, the hero risks emotional exhaustion and neglecting their own needs. For example, parents who try to solve every obstacle their children face, whether academic or emotional, deprive them of the opportunity to learn how to manage their own challenges. Although the intention is to protect and guide, these actions can negatively impact children's autonomy. Similarly, in the workplace, leaders who take on all their team's tasks, believing that everything will fail without them, end up exhausted. Paradoxically, this weakens the group, which loses its ability to operate independently. Jung encourages us to reflect on the inherent limitations of the hero archetype. Accepting that it is not possible to save everyone is a fundamental step toward individuation. The process of integrating all facets of our psyche, instead of carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, it is possible to offer support without losing our own balance. In this way, helping transforms into an act of wisdom and love rather than a burden imposed upon ourselves. It is not about abandoning those who need support, but about offering companionship from a place of clarity and harmony, distinguishing between helping and controlling, as the sincere desire to protect can lead us to overstep certain boundaries. Often, we may fall into the temptation of wanting to steer others' lives, convinced that we know what is best for them. However, even if this intention stems from a desire to help, it can be perceived as intrusive or overprotective. Understanding and respecting individual boundaries is essential to transforming the impulse to save into sincere and respectful support. Jung emphasizes the importance of self-care while helping others, as being a hero does not mean completely sacrificing oneself. On the contrary, it involves recognizing that our inner strength arises from the balance between giving and receiving. Only by achieving inner harmony can we become a true support for those around us. According to Carl Jung, altruism, although considered one of humanity's greatest virtues, can conceal a less obvious aspect, the shadow of the ego. Many times, acts of generosity may stem from an unconscious need for recognition, influence, or personal validation. What appears to be a selfless gesture might, in reality, reflect a desire to feel indispensable. For example, a person who constantly offers their help, even when it is not requested, may actually be seeking admiration or trying to boost their self-esteem through external recognition. Although these actions may seem genuine, deep down, they might be driven by the need for approval. This type of altruism does not foster genuine connections, but instead perpetuates relationships based on dependency and control. Moreover, this hidden facet of the ego can lead to passive-aggressive behaviors. When the altruist does not receive the expected recognition, they may experience frustration or resentment, revealing that their help was not as selfless as it seemed. In this way, altruism becomes a means to nourish the ego rather than a genuine expression of love and empathy. This shadow of altruism can also manifest in professional settings, particularly in roles such as educators, therapists, or leaders. It is easy to fall into the belief that one has the best solutions for others, without considering their capacity for self-management and growth. While this behavior may stem from a genuine desire to provide support, it often reflects a projection driven by the ego, seeking to reaffirm a sense of superiority. This approach tends to limit others' development and hinder their personal growth. Jung emphasizes the importance of self-observation as a tool to overcome these inner shadows. Understanding the underlying motivations allows our actions to become genuine expressions of empathy. It is not about ceasing to offer help, but rather doing so from a place of sincerity without expecting rewards. When support is offered selflessly, it not only benefits others but also fosters personal growth. The martyr archetype, often regarded as a symbol of sacrifice and nobility, can become harmful if adopted unconsciously. In their eagerness to give themselves entirely to others, the martyr tends to neglect their own needs, falling into a cycle of self-destruction and frustration. A central characteristic of this figure is the difficulty in establishing healthy boundaries. The martyr believes their worth is determined by the extent of their sacrifice, whether in terms of time, energy, or personal well-being. This constant self-sacrifice not only depletes them, but also creates an unhealthy dependency in those they help. For instance, a parent who constantly puts their children's needs above their own might deprive them of the opportunity to develop autonomy and a sense of responsibility. Another problematic aspect of this archetype is the need for recognition through suffering. Although they appear to act selflessly, they often expect their efforts to be appreciated and valued. When this does not happen, they may experience frustration or feelings of misunderstanding, fueling a cycle of victimhood. This type of behavior not only affects the martyr themselves, but also deteriorates their relationships, generating tension and imbalance. Jung offers a different perspective on sacrifice based on the concept of individuation. Instead of giving oneself completely, it is essential to find a middle ground between giving and receiving. Recognizing one's own needs and setting clear boundaries is crucial for a healthy balance. True sacrifice does not mean renouncing oneself, but rather offering from a place of respect and authenticity, both towards others and oneself. Leaving behind the martyr archetype does not mean giving up on providing support, but rather redefining our relationship with sacrifice. Instead of giving from a place of scarcity or need, it is crucial to learn to give from fullness and abundance. This shift not only frees us, but also strengthens interpersonal bonds, fostering genuine and balanced connections. Jung describes relationships as a constant flow of psychic energy. If we offer support without establishing clear boundaries, we run the risk of completely depleting ourselves. This exhaustion impacts both our emotional stability and our ability to interact effectively with others. Imagine a vessel of water that is emptied without being refilled. Eventually, it will run dry and be unable to meet even the simplest needs. Exhaustion often manifests as feelings of frustration, irritability, or resentment. These signs indicate that we have exceeded our limits and need to reconsider our approach. Jung highlights the importance of self-awareness and the establishment of healthy boundaries to preserve internal balance while offering genuine support to others. This does not imply selfishness, but rather understanding that we cannot provide to others what we lack within ourselves. Taking care of ourselves is essential, whether through meditation, physical activity, or simply dedicating time to our own needs. Learning to set boundaries and say no when necessary is also crucial. Saying no does not mean neglecting others, but rather prioritizing our well-being to continue offering sincere and sustainable support. By safeguarding our energy, we not only benefit ourselves, but also those around us. The concept of individuation, fundamental in Jung's psychological theory, refers to the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of our psyche in order to achieve a state of authenticity and fulfillment. However, when we devote excessive energy to assisting others, we may divert our attention from this inner journey, hindering our own development. Providing support to others may seem like a noble act, but at times, it becomes a strategy to avoid facing our own shadows. Those who center their existence around serving others often do so to evade their own fears, insecurities, or emotional wounds. This behavior can create the illusion of purpose, but in reality, it limits personal growth. Jung points out that the unconscious never remains inactive in the face of such imbalances. It sends signals through recurring dreams, states of anxiety, or a constant feeling of dissatisfaction. These manifestations urge us to reconnect with our essence and prioritize the individuation process. For instance, a person who constantly experiences exhaustion due to their excessive dedication to others might discover through a symbolic dream that their energy is being drained by neglecting their own needs. This imbalance is also reflected in the difficulty of setting appropriate boundaries, allowing external demands to dominate their life. Such a situation affects both emotional well-being and mental stability, reducing the ability to provide genuine support. Individuation does not mean ignoring those in need of help, but rather finding a balance between responsibilities toward others and one's own internal needs. Jung suggests practices such as active imagination, which facilitates dialogue with archetypes and images emerging from the unconscious. He also emphasizes the importance of rediscovering our individual interests and goals, those elements that nourish the soul and allow us to develop fully. By prioritizing our own individuation, we not only achieve a healthier balance but also become better allies to others, offering support without unconscious projections or expectations. Transference, a concept introduced by Freud and expanded by Jung, refers to the projection of emotions, desires, and internal conflicts onto another person. In helping relationships, this dynamic can become complex and, if not properly managed, can impact both the helper and the one receiving help. Often, those seeking assistance project archetypal figures onto the helper, such as the protective father or the nurturing mother. Although these projections may seem flattering, they also carry significant responsibility. If we accept them without question, we run the risk of internalizing others' emotions, such as anger, fear, or dependence. For example, a therapist might be perceived by their patient as an authoritative figure, evoking the image of an absent father. This unconscious interpretation can create tensions or unrealistic expectations within the relationship. If the therapist does not recognize this transference, they may become trapped in an undesired role, affecting their ability to provide genuine support. This phenomenon also manifests in everyday life. A friend who perceives us as a savior might expect us to solve their difficulties, a burden that over time can become exhausting and counterproductive. To properly manage transference, Jung emphasizes the importance of introspection and self-awareness. By being conscious of our own projections, we can identify expectations and emotions that do not belong to us. Additionally, it is crucial to establish healthy boundaries and encourage the independence of those around us. Instead of providing direct solutions, it is more valuable to guide people toward discovering their own answers, thus fostering their personal growth. When transference is handled with awareness, it becomes a valuable tool for mutual learning, transforming relationships into opportunities for growth and healing. These experiences are not mere coincidences, but manifestations of the unconscious that invite us to reconsider our decisions and priorities. Synchronicities often arise during periods of change, such as the beginning of a relationship, a career transition, or a personal crisis. Jung interpreted them as calls from the universe to pause and reflect. For those who dedicate much of their time to helping others, these signals can serve as reminders of the importance of balancing giving and receiving, recognizing that we can only offer what we genuinely possess within ourselves. Identifying and working with synchronicities requires an open disposition to intuition and attention to the symbols that emerge in our daily experience. It is not about attributing meaning to every little detail, but recognizing recurring patterns that reveal profound aspects of our psyche. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to never miss any of our reflections and analyses on Carl Jung's work. Join our community and begin your own unconscious journey towards self-knowledge and transformation. By paying attention to these signs, it is possible to align our decisions with personal well-being, restoring balance in our relationships and daily activities. In a society that constantly demands our energy and focus, Jung emphasizes the importance of reclaiming this inner balance as a fundamental aspect. Providing support to others can be an incredibly rewarding experience, as long as it arises from a state of personal stability. Without this balance, our actions can become exhausting and unsustainable. To restore this harmony, it is essential to identify our own needs. In various cultures, sacrifice is exalted as an altruistic virtue. However, Jung warns that this perspective can lead to excessive burnout. Taking care of oneself does not imply selfishness, but rather it is an indispensable requirement for offering genuine and lasting help. One of the tools Jung suggests is active imagination, a practice that allows interaction with images and emotions emerging from the unconscious. Exploring our inner world facilitates the identification of hidden tensions and unresolved conflicts, allowing us to establish healthy boundaries and prevent emotional exhaustion. Another effective strategy is the use of mandalas, symbolic representations of psychic wholeness. Drawing or meditating on a mandala helps calm the mind and reconnect with our place within a broader context. This practice is particularly useful for those who perceive their lives as chaotic due to external demands. Fostering self-understanding is also essential. Those who dedicate their time to helping others often impose unattainable expectations on themselves and experience feelings of guilt for not doing enough. Jung emphasizes the importance of accepting our limits, not as a weakness, but as a sign of wisdom. Setting clear boundaries, learning to decline requests without guilt, and delegating tasks are key strategies to preserve our energy. These actions also provide others with the opportunity to take an active role in their own development. Connecting with nature is another valuable source of renewal. Jung believed that contact with the natural environment allows us to reconnect with the archetypal roots of our psyche. A walk through the forest, the sound of flowing water, or simply gazing at the sky can be profoundly restorative experiences, capable of revitalizing our energy and offering a new perspective on life. By incorporating these practices into our daily routine, the act of helping transforms into a conscious expression of love and generosity. In Jungian philosophy, alchemy is used as a powerful metaphor for the process of inner transformation. Applied to the act of providing support, this conscious alchemy involves transforming our unconscious motivations into balanced actions where giving and receiving coexist in harmony. This requires deep introspection to differentiate genuine intentions from those driven by our shadows. Jung reminds us that we can only offer what we truly possess within. If we provide help from a state of lack, it will be limited and potentially harmful. In contrast, assistance provided from a state of inner balance flows naturally and without expectations. The first step in this transformation process is recognizing the unconscious aspects of our intentions. For example, if we support others to feel valuable, this need becomes a burden both for ourselves and for those we seek to support. Transforming these motivations involves accepting our reasons without judgment and working on our personal development to free ourselves from the need for external validation. Offering help consciously also requires a shift in perception towards others. Instead of seeing them as dependent, we acknowledge their ability to face their own challenges. In alchemical terms, this means empowering others to undertake their own process of inner growth. This approach respects their autonomy and fosters healthier, more balanced relationships. For instance, rather than directly solving a friend's problems during a crisis, it is more effective to offer emotional support and resources that enable them to find their own solutions. This method grants them decision-making power and frees us from the feeling of being responsible for their destiny. Another key aspect of this conscious alchemy is the integration of our shadows. These represent the parts of ourselves that we reject and often project onto others. By accepting and integrating these aspects, we stop seeking externally what we lack internally. This process transforms the act of helping into a genuine expression, free from dependency, validation, or the desire for control. Ultimately, conscious alchemy involves cultivating gratitude and detachment. Feeling gratitude for the ability to provide support connects us with a deeper sense of existence, while detachment allows us to offer help without conditions. This balance is essential to prevent emotional exhaustion while staying attuned to our own needs and values. At its core, Conscious alchemy transforms the act of helping into a spiritual journey where we not only contribute to the well-being of others, but also evolve as individuals. A fundamental step in protecting our emotional balance is learning to distinguish our own emotions from those of others. This involves recognizing whether our reactions stem from personal experiences or external influences. Taking a few moments each day to reflect on our interactions and identify absorbed emotions is a valuable exercise. It allows us to recognize recurring patterns and set boundaries before reaching exhaustion. Another effective resource is visualization. Jung believed that symbols have the power to strengthen our emotional resilience. Imagining oneself surrounded by a barrier that filters negative influences and allows positive energies to pass through can help preserve our vitality. Learning to set clear boundaries is another essential aspect of emotional protection. This can be challenging, especially for those who feel a strong urge to provide support, but recognizing our own limitations is an act of self-respect. Saying no does not mean neglecting others. Rather, it acknowledges the importance of preserving our mental health. By prioritizing our well-being, we ensure that the help we offer is genuine, balanced, and sustainable. Self-care also plays a crucial role in restoring our energy. Activities such as meditation, physical exercise, or connecting with nature can significantly revitalize our inner balance. Jung emphasized the importance of reconnecting with the natural world to restore psychological harmony. These moments of renewal not only strengthen our resilience, but also provide a solid foundation for offering support effectively. Taking care of our emotional stability is not a luxury, but a fundamental aspect of maintaining balance while assisting others. In Jung's psychological theory, the shadow represents the unconscious aspects of our psyche that we tend to repress or ignore. These hidden facets influence our choices and behaviors, particularly in the context of helping relationships. According to Jung, integrating the shadow not only enriches our personality, but also transforms the way we relate to our surroundings. For example, someone who insists on solving others' problems might, without realizing it, be trying to fill an emotional void or cope with a sense of inadequacy. In such cases, the help provided is not entirely selfless, but rather driven by unrecognized internal needs. When these motivations go unexamined, they can create imbalances in our relationships. Providing support can turn into an attempt to exert control or impose our perspective on others. Integrating our shadow involves an honest evaluation of ourselves. Feelings such as satisfaction, frustration, or resentment when helping are valuable indicators that reveal deeper motivations. Jung suggested addressing our shadows through archetypal imagery. For instance, visualizing a dialogue with this inner facet can help us identify its needs and find a point of balance. Accepting our imperfections and acting consciously rather than reacting impulsively from unconscious patterns is essential. Similarly, it is crucial to recognize that those who receive our help also have their own shadows. They may project their insecurities onto us, perceiving us as figures of salvation or control. Understanding these projections allows us to manage relationships with greater clarity and empathy. Shadow integration also invites us to reconsider our relationship with the light, those visible and positive aspects of our personality. If we focus excessively on being kind or exemplary, we risk ignoring our true essence. Balancing light and shadow helps us provide support more sincerely, free from external expectations. Jung emphasized that achieving balance between these two aspects is an ongoing process. It is not about striving for perfection, but about accepting our duality as part of human nature. By integrating both poles, we transform the way we offer help. We no longer act out of need or egocentrism, but from a place of authenticity and integrity. This change enriches not only our relationship with ourselves, but also with others, fostering deep and harmonious connections. Ultimately, this perspective allows us to offer support in a way that is enriching for both those who receive it and those who provide it. This is just one part of the journey. Your exploration of the unconscious continues. Click on the next video to keep discovering the teachings and secrets that Carl Jung left for humanity. See you in the next episode on Unconscious Journey. Have you ever wondered if this moment, this recording, came to you for something more than mere coincidence? What if what you are about to hear is exactly what you need to transform the course of your existence? It is no coincidence that you have found this content. Welcome to Unconscious Journey. We will explore together the depths of the psyche, the collective unconscious, and the teachings of Carl Jung. Get ready to discover new dimensions of yourself and the universe around us. You have attracted this through a much more powerful force, something that transcends rational understanding. What is happening now is an expression of synchronicity, one of those subtle signs from the universe that show us we are in the right place at the exact moment we need to be. You might think, this is just a coincidence. How could a simple video have such an impact? However, reality is much more complex than it seems. In the vast fabric of the cosmos, everything is interconnected. Every thought you generate, every feeling you experience, and every decision you make shapes your reality. When you reach a point where you are ready for a significant shift, the universe responds and meaningful coincidences begin to manifest. This message you are receiving is one of those connections. Think for a moment of the universe as an infinite network of energy where everything from the tiniest thoughts to the most transcendental events is linked. When you experience synchronicity, like coming across this information at the perfect moment, it's as if the universe is whispering to you, you are on the right path. Everything falls into place perfectly for your personal development. What may seem like a coincidence is, in fact, a manifestation of universal order, reminder that you are part of something much larger than you can imagine. What does this mean for you? If you are here at this moment, it is because your energy, your ideas, and your vibration have led you to this point. Perhaps you don't fully understand it yet, but somehow, what is happening now is resonating with you. Maybe you are searching for answers, feeling uncertain, or simply sensing the need for change. This moment represents a doorway to new ways of perceiving, being, and acting. Synchronicity is not just an abstract idea, it is a tangible reality in your life. Every time circumstances seem to fit perfectly, as if they were the work of destiny, it is a confirmation that you are aligned with the natural flow of the universe. This experience, far from being a random event, is evidence that you are on the right path. It is the response to your thoughts, desires, uncertainties, and intentions. Take a moment to reflect on those times when something amazingly timely happened in your life. Perhaps you crossed paths with someone just when you needed them the most, or opportunities arose when everything seemed lost. That, my dear friend, is synchronicity. It is proof that there is an energy guiding your existence and connecting you with what you need to move toward a new stage of your development. Synchronicity does not only manifest in major events or transcendental revelations. Often, it appears in the most subtle moments, in those details that we tend to overlook. It could be a thought that comes to your mind exactly when you need it, or a song that resonates at the precise moment. Everything is arranged to guide you toward your purpose, to help you remember your path and your mission. When something like this happens and resonates so deeply within you, you know it's not mere coincidence. It is one of the laws that govern the universe. Movement and expansion are constant. When you align with your true essence, synchronicities begin to manifest more regularly. There is no longer a need to force or struggle against circumstances. Instead, you tune into the vibration of your being, allowing opportunities and answers to come to you naturally. The universe, in some way, already understands your needs, and by connecting with this energy, you find yourself in the right place and time. Now, what is important here is that by reaching this point, you have opened a door. You are beginning to align with a higher energy, and this is just the beginning. This moment is not a simple coincidence. It is an invitation to connect with a greater force, to enter a state of awareness in which the answers you have been seeking become evident and opportunities flow effortlessly. It is the materialization of a universal principle. Everything you need is already available to you. The fact that you are here, experiencing this, indicates that you are about to receive something deeply meaningful. It's easy to get lost in the idea that change must be abrupt or extraordinary, but synchronicities don't always manifest in that way. Often, it is those small moments that make us pause and reflect, like when you look someone in the eyes for the first time and feel as if you already know them, or when an opportunity arises at the exact moment you are ready to move forward. These events, though they may seem simple, are just as significant as any grand revelation because they guide us and show us the path to follow. Perhaps at this very moment, you are receiving exactly what you need to take the next step. This experience, this message, is a synchronicity that appears at the right moment in your existence. Accept it for what it truly is, a door opening, a new possibility, a sign from the universe that pushes you toward what already belongs to you. You are at the threshold of a significant change, a transformation on your path, and the most fascinating thing is that this process does not require effort, only receptivity and willingness. Have you ever felt that certain events in your life are connected by an invisible thread? As if a higher energy were organizing each piece to guide you toward a specific destination. This moment is not a random event. It is a synchronicity, an expression of your energy in harmony with the vast web of the universe. However, to truly understand the impact of this phenomenon, you must first understand how your mind, your energy, and the universe interact. Imagine that each thought is like a seed. When you focus intensely on something, that seed begins to sprout. It doesn't do so on its own. It needs a favorable environment, water, light, and time. Your emotions and energy are like the water and light that nourish those seeds, while the universe provides the fertile ground where they can grow. As a result, every synchronicity, every apparent coincidence, is actually the result of the growth of those seeds you have planted many times without being aware of it. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you longed for something, imagined it intensely, and then unexpectedly an opportunity, a person, or a message appears that fits perfectly with that desire? This is not the result of chance or a magical act, but the natural response of the universe to your vibrations. Your thoughts not only influence your mood, but they also send waves of energy to the universe, creating an echo that eventually returns to you in the form of experiences and opportunities. Synchronicity is the way the universe communicates that it is present and attentive. However, these signals are not always obvious. Sometimes they appear as challenges or small hints that you can only perceive if you are truly conscious and in tune with yourself. This is where the power of intuition comes in, that inner voice that guides you toward what you truly need. Imagine walking through a dark forest with a lantern in hand. The light only illuminates a few steps in front of you, but it is enough to keep moving forward. Intuition works similarly. You don't need to see the whole path. Just trust that the clarity you have in the present will guide you to where you need to be. When a synchronicity manifests in your life, It's as if that light reveals a little more of the path, confirming that you are on the right track. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you overlooked those small clues, perhaps because they seemed insignificant or because you were too absorbed in everyday worries? Yet, those signs are the most evident messages from the universe. When you encounter something that resonates deeply with your being, it is an opportunity to pause, listen, and ask yourself what significance it has in your life. From a spiritual perspective, these synchronicities are not only messages but also opportunities for personal growth. Each time you choose to follow one of these signs, you strengthen your connection with the universe and open new doors to your development. But how do you recognize if a sign is meant for you? The answer lies in how it makes you feel. If something resonates genuinely within you, if you feel an unexpected calm or a deep emotion, it's likely that the sign is aligned with your path. It's as if the universe is activating a fiber within you, creating a vibration that is impossible to ignore. Synchronicity also offers us a valuable lesson about timing. Often, we long for events to happen at a specific moment, according to our expectations, but the universe follows its own rhythm, one that doesn't depend on our urgencies or deadlines, but on what is most suitable for our development. When a synchronicity appears, it not only indicates that you are moving in the right direction, but it also reminds us that the right moment cannot be rushed. It comes when we are ready to receive it. Imagine a river in its natural course. No matter how much you try to control it, the water will always find its own way. The universe operates in a similar way. You may try to impose your plans, but in the end, the natural flow will always find its way. Synchronicities are like little currents in that river, guiding you toward a specific destination, even if you can't clearly distinguish it at this moment. This is where one of the most important aspects lies. These signs are not only present to guide you, but also to remind you of your true essence. When you begin to recognize synchronicities, you realize that you are not simply a consequence of circumstances, but an active participant in creating your reality. Every thought, every feeling, and every action you take contributes to the fabric of your life. Synchronicities demonstrate that you have the ability to shape your destiny in ways you never imagined. However, this power comes with responsibility. Synchronicities are not mere coincidences. They are opportunities for reflection and change. When the universe sends you a sign, it is not enough to simply recognize it. It is necessary to act accordingly, to take that step that brings you closer to what you truly desire. In essence, synchronicity is not just about what the universe offers you, but about how you choose to respond to it. This moment is not a random event, but an opportunity to trust, let go of control, and allow the natural course of life to take you exactly where you need to be. Reflect for a moment. If this experience has come to you, it is because there is something within you that longed for answers, a deeper connection, a confirmation that you are not alone on this journey. However, synchronicities are not meant to be merely observed. They must be understood, assimilated, and above all lived. It is not just a simple coincidence. It is an opportunity to ask yourself, what does this mean for me? When you begin to recognize the impact of synchronicity, you understand that nothing in your life happens by chance. Every step taken, every decision made, and even mistakes that seem to divert your path have actually led you to this very moment. By understanding this, your perspective changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin to recognize yourself as the architect of your reality. The key lies in the fact that conscious creation requires attention, intention, and action. Imagine your life as a book where each page represents a day, an experience, a choice. Synchronicities are like notes in the margins, left by an invisible hand guiding you toward the next chapter. However, Those directions will make no sense if you choose to ignore them or not act on them. Considering these signs as mere coincidences is like overlooking the most valuable notes in the book of your life. From an energetic perspective, synchronicities happen because your thoughts, emotions, and vibrations align with a particular frequency. It's similar to tuning into a radio station. When you are in harmony with your true desires, you begin to receive signals that confirm you are on the right path. The crucial question is, are you in tune with what you truly desire, or are you vibrating on a frequency of fear, uncertainty, or confusion? Reflect for a moment. What kind of energy are you projecting at this moment? The law of attraction does not only respond to your conscious desires, but also to the more subtle vibrations, even those you don't fully recognize. If your frequency is tuned to fear, you will attract circumstances that reinforce that emotion. On the other hand, if you resonate with love and trust, the experiences that come to you will reflect that inner state. Synchronicities are the way the universe reveals the frequency you are on. Imagine walking along a path filled with signs. Some are obvious and direct, like an arrow pointing the way. Others are more subtle, like a distant glimmer or a breeze gently guiding you. Synchronicities act in the same way. Although they are not always easy to identify, they require attention, trust in your intuition, and the willingness to follow that inner feeling that suggests something is important, even if you can't explain it clearly. The power of synchronicity also lies in its ability to unite different aspects of your existence. You may discover a clue in an unexpected environment and later find another in a completely different context, yet both seem to connect in the same message. This is not a coincidence. It is a way in which the universe demonstrates the interconnectedness of everything, reminding you that every element of your life is part of a bigger picture. Visualize your life as a puzzle, where every experience, encounter, or thought is a key piece. Synchronicities are those pieces that fit perfectly, allowing you to see the bigger picture with greater clarity. However, it is important to remember that you cannot force the pieces to fit before their time. Each element arrives at the right moment, trusting that the whole will be revealed when you are ready to understand it. From a spiritual perspective, synchronicities are not just external signs, they are also internal reminders of your power. Every time you experience one, you have the opportunity to reconnect with your intuition, that inner voice that always knows what the next step is. To hear it clearly, it is essential to create space in your life. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our reflections and analyses on the work of Carl Jung. Join our community and start your own unconscious journey towards self-awareness and transformation. It is essential to detach from the noise and distractions that often obstruct the connection with the transcendental. Reflect for a moment. How could you create more space for synchronicities to manifest in your life? These signs do not always emerge in moments of serenity, they often appear amid disorder, when you least expect them. However, if you are too busy or distracted, you might overlook them, underestimate them, or even dismiss them as mere coincidences without value. Imagine looking at a starry sky, where some stars shine more brightly than others, but all are part of the same firmament. Synchronicities work in a similar way. Some are so obvious that they are impossible to ignore, while others require a more attentive observation to be recognized. However, all play a role on your path, reminding you that you are never alone. The true meaning of synchronicity is intrinsically linked to trust. Every time you decide to follow a sign, you strengthen your trust in life and, more importantly, in yourself. But this trust is not blind. It is a confidence rooted in experience, in the recognition that the universe constantly guides you toward what you truly need, even if it doesn't always align with what you expected. Also, consider how you have responded to the signs that have already appeared in your life, as synchronicities are not just meant to be noticed, but to be fully experienced. Every time you choose to ignore a sign, you might be closing a door that would have led you to something meaningful. On the other hand, by acting on a sign, you open the possibility of accessing a new level of understanding and change. Finally, it is important to remember that synchronicities are not just external signs. They also reflect your own inner power. Every time you experience one, it is a confirmation that you are in harmony with the flow of the universe, that you are exactly where you need to be. However, this power is not something granted by the universe, but an energy that has always been within you. It is something that already resides within you. Synchronicities simply help you remember that each one of them is an essential piece in the puzzle of your personal development. However, it is crucial to understand something fundamental. It is not enough to recognize these signs. You need to assimilate them, interpret their meaning, and discover how they can push you forward. Every moment, just like all the others, has a reason for being. Nothing happens by chance. These experiences not only provide information, but also function as tools for transformation. Think of it this way. When life sends you a sign, it is not to please or surprise you without reason. Its purpose is to guide you, push you toward a new perspective, and encourage a renewed way of living. Synchronicities act as subtle reminders that everything in your existence has meaning, even those aspects you still don't fully understand. To capture the true message these experiences hold, it is necessary to reach a deeper level of attention and perception. Imagine walking down a path and discovering an arrow on the ground. The arrow points in a direction, but it does not reveal what you will find at the end of the path. That is the essence of synchronicity. It doesn't provide definitive answers, but rather clues that suggest a direction, leaving in your hands the decision to continue, trust, and venture into the unknown. Think about how many times you have overlooked the signs of life while waiting for absolute certainty. However, the reality is that full security does not come from the beginning, but after taking the first step. Synchronicities are not unbreakable promises, but indications that reveal themselves at the right moment. They are opportunities that can only reveal their true value through action. From an energetic perspective, synchronicities reflect your alignment with the flow of the universe. Every time you experience one, it is a confirmation that you are vibrating in harmony with your desires. However, it is essential to understand that this harmony does not occur by chance. It is the result of your thoughts, emotions, and intentions. It comes from your willingness to leave behind what no longer benefits you and open yourself to the opportunities that life has to offer. Imagine that your energy flows like a river. When it flows unobstructed, opportunities answers, and the right people come with ease. However, when the river is blocked by resistance, fear, or uncertainty, that flow is interrupted. Synchronicities work like small currents in that river, reminding you that movement is always available, but it depends on you to allow it to happen. Their power also lies in their ability to offer a new perspective. Often, we are so absorbed in our daily routines and concerns that we overlook the opportunities right in front of us. Synchronicities act as subtle reminders suggesting that something meaningful is waiting to be discovered. To catch these signs, it is necessary to slow down, reduce the noise, and set aside distractions. Reflect on what distractions you are allowing in your life that might be preventing you from perceiving the signs life is presenting. These indications do not always manifest in a striking or obvious way. They often appear subtly, like a conversation, a number, or a piece of music. If you are too busy or disconnected, you might overlook them. It's like watching a movie while distracted with your phone, missing key moments without realizing it. Synchronicities are like those crucial scenes in a story. They are the moments that bring meaning, but only if you decide to pay attention. When you do, something special happens. You begin to notice patterns and connections that were previously overlooked. It's as if a greater plan, which has always been present, finally reveals itself, because now you are prepared to perceive it. From a spiritual perspective, synchronicities are not just external signs, they also reflect your inner state. Every time you experience one, the opportunity arises to ask yourself, what is happening inside me that is generating this external situation? The universe does not send signals by chance. Every message you receive is in harmony with your energy, with what you are projecting to the world. Reflect on how you have reacted to the signs that have appeared on your path. Ignoring them can close doors to new experiences, while acting on them opens possibilities for greater personal growth and transformation. Imagine that you are at a crossroads, where each path represents a different direction you could choose. Synchronicities are like indicators along those paths, suggesting the most appropriate route. However, the final decision is yours. The signs do not move forward for you. It is you who must choose the path to follow. The deeper meaning of synchronicities is also linked to personal empowerment. Every time you decide to follow a clue, you strengthen the trust in your intuition and your ability to shape your reality. That confidence does not come from nowhere. It is built step by step, following each clue with determination. Finally, it is important to understand that synchronicities are not isolated events, but part of a constant dialogue with the universe. Every time you pay attention and respond to these signs, you are deepening that connection and strengthening the relationship with the environment around you. By strengthening that connection, you begin to experience something exceptional, an existence where signs are not sporadic, but constant. Everything seems to align naturally because you are in harmony with yourself. By paying attention to synchronicities, a profound shift occurs in your perception. You stop seeing the world as a chaotic and uncertain environment and begin to understand it as a carefully structured system, where every element has its reason for being. You are not just a passive observer, but an active participant in this balance. This moment is not just a passing circumstance, it is evidence that you are part of something much larger, an infinite network of energy that works in your favor. Think about how many times you have ignored a feeling or a clue, only to discover later that it was exactly what you needed. Synchronicities do not stop happening, it is often we who stop noticing them. However, this moment represents an opportunity. Imagine standing in front of a calm lake. Every decision, thought, or action you make is like throwing a stone into the water. The ripples created not only affect the point of impact, but expand, touching every corner of the lake. Synchronicities are those ripples that return, reminding you of the effect of your decisions and the interconnectedness of everything in your life. Every time you experience a synchronicity, you are receiving confirmation that you are in tune with the universal flow. However, this harmony does not happen by chance. It is the result of your willingness to leave behind what no longer benefits you, trust in the unknown, and be receptive to what is to come. Synchronicity is not an isolated event, but a continuous dialogue between you and the universe. Every time you follow a sign, you reinforce your trust in yourself and in the development of your path. On the other hand, when you decide to ignore it, you might be closing the door to new opportunities. Synchronicities do not guarantee results, but they offer valuable directions along the journey of life. Opportunities are there, and only you can decide whether to seize them or let them pass. Imagine sailing across a vast ocean, where the wind and currents symbolize the forces of the universe, guiding you toward a destination. However, you are the captain of your vessel. You must adjust the sails, make decisions, and trust that, although the horizon may not always be visible, you are moving toward where you need to be. Synchronicities are like stars in the sky, lighting your path even in the shadows. The value of synchronicity also lies in its ability to remind you of your connection with everything around you. Every time you experience one, you have the opportunity to recognize that you are not separate from the universe, but rather an extension of it. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions are like intertwined threads that shape the tapestry of your reality. When you pay attention to the signs, you begin to perceive the broader design that is taking shape. Reflect on this. What kind of design are you creating right now? Every thought that arises in your mind and every decision you make contributes to that structure. Synchronicities are not merely external signs, but reflections of what you are nurturing inside. If you experience signs of growth and connection, it's because you are in a state of openness and receptivity. However, if the signs seem unclear or non-existent, it might be time to look within and question what energy you are projecting into the world. From a spiritual perspective, synchronicities also serve as reminders that you are never isolated. In the journey of life, it's easy to feel disconnected, as if our experiences are individual and separate. However, every synchronicity proves that you are being supported, guided, and backed by forces that surpass what is imaginable. It's as if the universe is whispering, "I'm here with you, you're not alone." Imagine being in a forest and hearing an echo in the distance. Although you can't see where it comes from, you know you are not alone. Synchronicities are like that distant echo, reminding you of your connection to something much greater than yourself. However, to perceive that echo, you need to pause, observe carefully, and trust that even when the path is not fully clear, you are being guided to where you need to be. The deeper meaning of synchronicities is closely tied to transformation. Every time you decide to follow one of these signs, you are choosing to evolve, move forward, and adapt. However, growth does not always come easily. Often, the signs lead us into unexplored territories, challenging us to leave the familiar behind and trust in the new. Each experience is an opportunity for this kind of change. Reflect on this. What are you willing to leave behind right now to make space for what life has prepared for you? Change does not happen instantly. It occurs when you decide to let go of what no longer serves you in order to receive what is to come. Synchronicities not only indicate what is coming, but also remind you of what you need to let go of. Imagine holding a rope. At one end are all the familiar experiences, the things that are comfortable and safe. At the other end is the unknown, the possibilities, what could be. Synchronicities act as subtle nudges in that rope, urging you to release what binds you to the past and trust that by doing so, you will be moving toward a broader horizon. It's important to remember that every moment has its meaning. Every experience you live is not just a coincidence, but an opportunity to transform your reality through conscious attention, trust in the process, and intentional action. Life is always communicating with you. The question is, are you willing to listen? This is just part of the journey. Your exploration of the unconscious continues. Click on the next video to keep discovering the teachings and secrets Carl Jung left for humanity. See you in the next episode of Unconscious Journey. There are moments in the lives of those destined for something greater when everything begins to transform. It doesn't happen suddenly, but like a tide that little by little withdraws what is not firmly rooted. Perhaps you've noticed that your bonds, those connections you once considered indispensable, begin to fade away. Welcome to Voyage Inconscient. We will explore together the depths of the psyche, the collective unconscious, and the teachings of Carl Jung. Get ready to discover new dimensions of yourself and the universe around us. It's as if the pieces of the puzzle that once made up your world detach one by one, leaving you with a feeling of emptiness that's hard to fill. This distancing, though unsettling, is not an accident. It's an opportunity, a space designed for you to rediscover your true essence. Accepting it isn't always easy. It's understandable to resist when the relationships that once provided you with security now seem to be fading. Perhaps you've wondered if you've made a mistake, why the affection, support, or closeness you longed for now seems increasingly out of reach. However, the reality is different. This distancing is not a punishment or a sign that something is wrong with you. It's an invitation to pause and reflect. In the silence of solitude, far from external distractions, is where you can truly connect with yourself. Imagine being in a room full of people where conversations, laughter, and noise compete for your attention. It's impossible to hear a whisper amidst that clamor. But when the room empties, when silence settles in, that whisper, though faint, becomes clear. That murmur represents your essence, your deepest truth. It's that part of you that has been there all along but has been overshadowed by expectations, obligations, and the bonds you've built with the outside world. This period of isolation doesn't distance you from others, but rather allows you to get closer to yourself. Often, we seek answers from others, trying to fill our internal voids with affection and company, believing that it will make us feel whole. However, what we long for outside cannot be found there, as it is not something we lack, but something we have forgotten. Isolation, as challenging as it may be, is the fertile ground where that memory can blossom again. It is a space where you can rediscover the fullness that has always resided within you. This process is not simple, as it involves facing aspects of yourself that you may have avoided for a long time. In the midst of the noise and distractions of daily life, it's easy to ignore what hurts, what is missing, or what doesn't fit. However, in solitude, it's impossible to escape it. That emptiness you perceive is not the absence of something external, but a sign that there are internal aspects that need to be acknowledged, accepted, and healed. This process can only take place when you find the courage to be with yourself, without evasions or seeking answers from the outside. You may feel that this distancing is unfair, that you should be surrounded by affection, support, and deep connections. But what if this space is exactly what you need to evolve? What if this period of solitude is, in fact, an opportunity to rediscover your true identity without the influence of others? The roots of a tree are not strengthened on the surface. They sink in the shadows, far from light and company, because it is in that darkness where they find the nutrients necessary to support everything that will grow afterward. The distance from others is not a rejection, but a reorientation. It's as if the universe whispers, "Stop, look within. Everything you need is here." In solitude, immediate answers don't appear, but the right questions do arise. What part of yourself have you ignored? What do you need to leave behind to move forward? What truly makes you feel whole and in harmony, not with the outside, but with yourself? This isolation is a sacred refuge, even though it may not always seem like it. It is a sanctuary where you can free yourself from the masks you've worn, from imposed expectations, and from the bonds that no longer resonate with who you truly are. Here, you can rediscover your essence, that unique spark that cannot be defined or limited by anything or anyone. And when you find it, everything changes, not because the environment transforms, but because you do. It's natural to want to speed up this process, and leave isolation quickly. However, growth cannot be rushed. It's like a flower that only blooms when the time is right. You need the exact time and space to unfold your full potential. This stage is not a punishment or a pointless pause. It is a preparation. You are being guided towards something greater, and this isolation is the ground where you are developing the roots that will support your future growth. In this process, you begin to notice that you've never truly been alone. Although external connections may have weakened, the connection with yourself, with your essence, and with the universe has always been present. In this space, you discover that true companionship doesn't come from others, but from your own presence. That relationship with yourself is the foundation upon which all other authentic connections in your life will be built. Do not fear this process or try to rush it. Allow yourself to be in this place, even if it's uncomfortable and uncertain, because this is where the clarity that cannot be found anywhere else arises. It is in this space that you realize that the love, fulfillment, and connection you've always sought externally have actually been within you, waiting to be discovered. When the time is right, the right bonds will reappear in your life. They won't be the same as before because you will have changed. They will be relationships that reflect your authenticity, your essence, and your evolution. In the meantime, this moment is yours. It is an opportunity, a process of preparation, and when you look back, you will understand that this solitude was not a detour, but the path that led you to yourself. Sometimes, the changes that occur inside you are so profound that, though invisible, you can feel that something is transforming. It's not a sudden change, but a gradual adjustment, like the slow movement of tectonic plates that, though imperceptible, has the power to completely alter the surface of your life. This transformation is not only emotional or mental, but also energetic. It is a metamorphosis that happens on levels that are difficult to understand, but whose manifestations are undeniable. If you feel that the people around you no longer understand you, or that the relationships that once gave you meaning now feel heavy, it's because your energy is evolving. This process can create a sense of disconnection. Conversations that used to flow now feel forced. Places where you once felt in harmony now seem foreign. It's as if the world is changing, but in reality, it is you who is transforming. The frequency at which your being vibrates is no longer the same, and everything around you responds to this evolution, sometimes subtly, other times overwhelmingly. It is an inevitable process because it is not a conscious choice, but an essential part of your growth and preparation for something higher. Your energy, that imperceptible force that defines your interaction with the world, is being refined. It's as if the universe is tuning an instrument, adjusting each string to produce a purer melody, more in tune with the essence of who you truly are. Perhaps you've wondered why this transformation doesn't occur easily, why it seems accompanied by so much confusion and difficulty. The truth is that change is never comfortable. You cannot become something new without letting go of what you were, and that detachment is not easy. It's similar to the process of a snake shedding its skin in order to keep growing. It doesn't happen by choice, but by necessity. The old skin can no longer sustain its expansion, and while the process is uncomfortable, it is also unavoidable. You are experiencing your own energetic transformation, leaving behind habits, bonds, and beliefs that can no longer contain the renewed version of yourself that is emerging. It may seem like you are giving up more than you are gaining, but what you are truly releasing is not a loss, but a liberation. Everything that disappears is because it no longer resonates with the frequency you now hold. It's as if your energy is being purified, eliminating the superfluous and leaving only what is genuine and essential. Although this process may seem daunting, it is also deeply liberating because what remains is a more authentic version of yourself, aligned with your inner purpose. Connections may feel like a burden, not because something is wrong with those people, but because they no longer resonate with your evolution. This does not mean you must break all bonds, but it does mean you need to be honest with yourself about what propels you and what holds you back. Sometimes the bravest act is letting go of what no longer contributes to your growth, even if it means walking a solitary path for a time. This energetic shift not only transforms the way you interact with others, but also your relationship with yourself. The thoughts you once accepted without question now challenge you. The emotions you used to avoid now demand to be recognized. It's as if an inner light is illuminating areas of your being that were previously in shadow. Facing these aspects of yourself may be uncomfortable, but it is essential because only by recognizing these shadows can you integrate them, and only by doing so can you move forward. It is important to remember that this process does not have a final endpoint. It is not something that will be completed forever one day, but a continuous cycle of transformation that will lead you to new heights, only to challenge you to change again. Although it may seem exhausting, it is what gives depth and vitality to life. Each stage of this cycle brings you a little closer to your essence, to that truth found at the core of your being. You may wonder how to navigate these changes without feeling overwhelmed, how to move forward without getting lost in the process. The key is not to resist, but to flow with the change. Flowing does not mean surrendering, but trusting that this process, although challenging, is working in your favor. Trusting that each step, even the hardest one, brings you closer to the person you are evolving into. Imagine a river flowing toward the ocean, always in motion. No matter how many obstacles appear along the way, the water always finds a way to move forward. You too are constantly moving towards something greater, and even though the journey may seem uncertain, you can trust that you are being guided in the right direction. There is no need to have all the answers at this moment. It is enough to be willing to take the next step and allow the transformation to occur even if the final destination is still invisible. This process of change is a reminder that you haven't come to remain static. You've come to grow, expand, and become a version of yourself that you may not even be able to imagine at this moment. Though this path may seem solitary, it is also profoundly revealing because in that space of introspection that has opened for you, you are discovering something invaluable. Your true inner strength. Over time, you will look back and understand that every challenging situation, every relationship that changed, and every emotion that emerged were part of your evolution. You will understand that this change was not imposed, but a choice, a response to an inner calling. To move forward, there is no need to understand all the details of the process or have every piece in place. What matters is trusting that you are exactly where you need to be, because this change, although difficult, is the path to a more authentic and free existence. In this process, you will discover that you are not losing anything significant. On the contrary, you are reclaiming the essence of who you truly are. On the path of those destined for something greater, there comes a moment when everything seems to stop. Not because they are not progressing, but because the methods that used to guide them no longer serve in the same way. It's as if the tools they once used to navigate their life have become ineffective, leaving them facing an unknown territory that cannot be approached with past strategies. This space of uncertainty, though challenging, is not an obstacle. It is a reminder that they are being prepared for a purpose beyond the ordinary, a mission that requires a renewed approach. When you are destined for something significant, distractions become unnecessary burdens. Relationships, commitments, and external expectations, though valuable at another time, begin to feel like limitations, not because they are negative, but because they are no longer aligned with a new path that is unfolding. In this context, solitude is not a punishment, but an opportunity. It is a blank canvas, waiting to be painted with the colors of your truth rather than the patterns others have imposed on your life. It's natural to resist this process, as the desire for connection and belonging is inherent in all of us. We long to be part of something and to find stability in our relationships, but in this process of transformation, the most important thing is to discover stability within yourself. What happens when those bonds begin to pull you away from your purpose? What happens when life, in its wisdom, intervenes to remind you that your mission is too significant to share with those who are not yet ready to accompany you? This is the point where many feel disoriented, because they don't see what is really happening. You are being freed from unnecessary burdens in order to move forward more lightly. Imagine a ship about to set sail into unknown waters. Before departure, it is essential to let go of the superfluous, of anything that could slow down the journey. This process may seem like a loss, even painful, as it involves leaving behind things that were once valuable. However, it is also an act of preparation, a sign that you are ready to embark on a journey that demands all your attention and energy. This is how this process of isolation works, not as deprivation, but as an opportunity for refinement. The mission you are embracing is not small. It is a force that pushes you to step out of your comfort zone, to leave behind structures that provided security but also kept you stagnant. It is a reminder that you didn't come to live an ordinary life. You are here to make an impact, to create something that goes beyond your own existence, and that kind of mission cannot be fulfilled if your energy is scattered in too many directions. You may wonder how to reconcile this calling with your longing for connection, with that human need to love and be loved. There is no simple answer, because the love you seek is not found in conventional relationships. At this point in your journey, love is not an external pursuit, but an internal state. It is the force that propels you, that sustains you and guides you, even when the path is uncertain. This love does not depend on external factors. It is the bond you create with yourself and with the purpose you carry within. The mission carries a weight that not everyone is prepared to bear, not because they lack something, but because their time has not yet come. This is the challenge of those who have been called, learning to walk in solitude, not as an act of isolation, but as an expression of trust. Trust that the path will be revealed and that truly meaningful connections will emerge at the precise moment. In the meantime, this stage of apparent solitude is not an emptiness, but a space full of potential, an interval to align every part of your being with the mission you have come to fulfill. When everything seems to stop, when relationships change and direction becomes uncertain, it is not a sign of failure, but of redirection. It's as if life is clearing your path to allow you to focus on what's essential. And what's essential is not always immediately visible. It is a whisper, an intuition, a sense that something profound is in progress. This space that has opened before you is not meant to be filled with distractions, but to be used as a laboratory where you can explore, make mistakes, learn, and evolve. It is natural to feel fear in this process, the fear of losing what you have, the fear of not finding what you long for, the fear of feeling alone in a world that seems designed for constant connection. Fear is not an adversary, but a sign that you are crossing a threshold, leaving behind the familiar to enter the unknown. It is in that unexplored territory where true transformation arises, not because destiny does it for you, but because in that space you discover your true potential. Purpose is not a fixed destination or a goal to be reached and then rest. It is a constant journey, a series of daily decisions that align you with the deepest truth of your being. This path is not for everyone, but your role is not to follow the crowd, but to open new paths and show what is possible. By listening to your calling and following it, even when it means walking in solitude for a while, you will understand that this isolation has been a gift, not a punishment. Every bond that faded, every door that closed, and every moment of uncertainty were part of your preparation. You were not losing anything. You were gaining the clarity and focus necessary to carry out your mission. And when the time is right, when you are ready, the right connections will return to your life, not as distractions, but as travel companions who understand your purpose. In this moment, you do not need to have all the answers or see the big picture. You only need to take the next step and trust that this journey, though solitary for now, is leading you exactly to the place where you need to be. And when you arrive, you will not be the same. You will be stronger, more conscious, more aligned with your true essence, because this isolation is not an outcome, but the beginning of something much more transcendental. When you experience a deep transformation in your being, everything around you begins to reflect that internal change. Relationships that once seemed to fit perfectly may start to feel uncomfortable, as if they no longer fit with a new version of you. This does not mean that those connections were wrong, but that they no longer vibrate in harmony with your growth. This mismatch is not a failure. It is a manifestation of evolution, as if your essence, in expanding, is surpassing the boundaries that once contained it. At this point, many people feel they are losing something valuable, but what seems like a loss is actually a liberation. The bonds that dissolve and the connections that weaken do not disappear due to a lack of success, but because their cycle has come to an end, as they no longer resonate with the frequency you now occupy. Although this process may be painful, it also represents an opportunity to make space and allow something new and more authentic to enter your life. Imagine a river changing its course, finding a wider path aligned with its natural flow. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our reflections and analyses on the work of Carl Jung. Join our community and start your own voyage inconscient towards self-awareness and transformation. The water seems to overflow without a defined direction, but over time it finds a new channel that reflects its true path. Similarly, when your energy changes, everything that no longer flows with you begins to fall away. While it may seem like a break, it is actually a deeper integration of your true self, because it's not possible to move forward if you remain attached to a version of yourself that has stayed in the past. It's easy to cling to the familiar, to those relationships that once provided you with security, even when you feel that they no longer fit in your life. But how many times have you stayed in a place or a relationship out of fear of the emptiness that might remain if you walked away? How many times have you ignored that internal sense of transformation just because it was more comfortable to stay in known? This is the real challenge of growth. Learning to let go, even when you have no certainty about what will come next. The mismatch you perceive in your relationships is not a rejection, but a sign that you are evolving, that you are leaving behind patterns and dynamics that no longer serve a purpose in your life. While this process may generate loneliness, it is also a reminder that your existence is not designed for permanence, but for continuous transformation. This is the natural flow of life, and resisting it only prolongs the suffering. At times, the people you care about cannot accompany you in this process, not because they don't want to, but because their paths are different from yours, and that's okay. There is no need to cling to anyone, because the bonds that truly matter will find a way to remain present. The space that opens up in your life is not an emptiness, but an opportunity. A reminder that the connections that truly nourish you are those that allow you to be who you are, without demands or conditions. You may question whether you're making mistakes, whether the fact that these relationships are changing means you're not enough or that you should act differently. However, this process is not an evaluation of your worth. It is an adjustment, a necessary balance to align with the most genuine version of yourself. That authenticity, though at certain moments it may seem lonely, is the starting point from which you can cultivate the most authentic and meaningful bonds. Imagine a garden that needs to be pruned in order to bloom more strongly. The pruned branches are not useless. They serve their purpose at the right time. But if they are not left behind, they hinder the emergence of new opportunities. Relationships follow a similar pattern. Those that are no longer in tune with you are not negative or wrong. They simply have completed their cycle. By letting them go, you not only foster your own development, but also that of those involved, because genuine love does not hold on, it liberates. It is crucial to understand that this mismatch does not mean you will never experience deep connections again. On the contrary, it indicates that you are creating the space necessary for something more meaningful, more in alignment with your current self. However, before those new relationships can bloom, it is essential to go through this process of release, not as an act of distancing, but as a gesture of respect for yourself. By fully accepting yourself, you allow others to do the same. This path is not linear. There will be days when you feel serenity in the face of these changes, and others when loneliness will feel overwhelming. However, in both circumstances, you are moving forward, because each step toward your true essence brings you closer to a more authentic and fulfilling existence. The quality of your life is not measured by the number of connections, but by the authenticity of them. When relationships evolve, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism or blaming others. However, this process is not about blame, but about growth. It's about understanding the importance of letting go of what no longer resonates with you, not because there are flaws, but because you are in constant transformation towards something higher. Although facing this growth may be challenging, it represents one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. You may feel at this moment that you are losing more than you are gaining, but when you look back, you will understand that every connection that disappeared, every relationship that took a different path, and every moment of solitude were crucial elements of your evolution. It wasn't about rejection, but about liberation, and in that openness, you found the space necessary to grow, blossom, and become the best version of yourself. There's no need to seek out bonds to fill the void. The only essential thing is to trust that this mismatch, though uncomfortable, is part of a greater process, guided by your own essence and truth. When the connections that truly belong to your path finally appear, it will not be by chance or lack. They will be a reflection of the person you have transformed into, of the energy you now emit, and of the authenticity you have embraced as your own. This mismatch is, in fact, a gift, a sign that you are evolving, shedding everything that no longer resonates in harmony with you. Although the path may seem uncertain, you must trust that it leads to something much more significant. Because this is not a final point, but the beginning of a new phase in which you will be fully aligned with your true essence. When everything around you starts to fade, you are confronted with an inevitable reality. You are left alone with yourself, with no external distractions. And then a fundamental question arises: what remains when everything else disappears? The answer does not come immediately, but little by little, you begin to discover something that has always been present. You, not the version that seeks approval, nor the one that adapts to fit in, but the most genuine and serene expression, the one that doesn't need words to know that it is enough. This period of isolation does not represent a void, but a reunion with your essence, beyond the appearances and expectations you have carried. At first, silence may seem overwhelming, as if you don't know what to do with so much space. However, this silence is not an obstacle, but a companion that invites you to explore the deepest corners of your being, those aspects you have left aside, because the noise of the world has always been louder. Now, without that noise, you have the opportunity to listen clearly. During this process, you realize that you have spent much of your life searching outside for what has always been within you. You have tried to find love, acceptance, and purpose in others, believing that they could fill that space. However, in this moment of solitude, you discover that you cannot find outside what you have not first recognized inside of you. The affection you long for, the connection you desire, cannot come from others unless they have first bloomed within you. Because self-love is the foundation upon which all relationships are built. It's easy to fall into the illusion of thinking that someone else can complete you. Society has ingrained the idea that loneliness is a problem that must be solved, not a stage that deserves to be lived. However, this time in isolation does not represent a lack, but an opportunity. It is a space that life has granted you so that you can learn to feel complete by yourself and discover that you don't need anyone else to feel enough, because you always have been. Imagine for a moment what you would do if you were absolutely certain that you are already whole just as you are. What decisions would you make if you weren't trying to fill a void, but simply expressing yourself from a state of fullness? This is the power of learning to be with yourself. It's not about achieving perfection, but embracing acceptance. It's about looking at your own shadows and acknowledging them, not because they are pleasant, but because they are part of you. It's understanding that you don't need to be someone different from who you already are. This process is not easy. It requires courage. It demands facing your thoughts, your fears, without escaping or seeking distractions. However, in that courage, you find something that no external relationship can provide you: serenity. Not the tranquility that comes from having everything under control, but the one that arises from self-confidence, even when the environment is uncertain. True peace is not the absence of chaos, but inner security. Discovering your wholeness has a profound impact. When you recognize yourself as enough, you stop seeking from others what already resides within you. Your bonds change as they cease to be a necessity and become a choice. You no longer look for someone to rescue you, validate you, or make you feel loved, because that love has already been found within yourself. This does not mean giving up on relationships, but rather experiencing them from a perspective of freedom. You are not with someone out of need, but by your own choice. This change transforms not only the way you interact with others, but also your relationship with yourself. You begin to see yourself with new eyes, and the criticisms you once directed at yourself lose their influence. The unreachable expectations you used to impose on yourself begin to fade, not because you've stopped trying, but because you understand that you don't need to achieve perfection to deserve love and acceptance. That worth does not come from the outside. It has always been within you, waiting to be recognized. In this space, you begin to realize that solitude is not something to fear, but something to embrace, because in it, you find clarity. You find the strength to let go of what no longer contributes to your life, and the wisdom to open yourself to what truly matters. This process does not happen overnight. It is a journey that requires patience and compassion towards oneself. However, each step brings you closer to the essence of who you are. There is no final point on this path. You will always be learning, transforming, and evolving. At each stage, you discover something new, something that reminds you that you are stronger, more resilient, and more whole than you ever imagined. And that strength does not come from others, but from your own inner being. It is the result of facing yourself and emerging with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be you. When you reach this perspective, you realize that isolation was not a punishment, but a preparation. That every moment of solitude and every night of uncertainty were essential steps to get to the present. From this place, you can look forward with renewed confidence. Not because you have all the answers, but because you know that regardless of what happens, you can trust yourself to find the right direction. This is not the conclusion of your journey, but a turning point. It is the moment when you stop searching outside for what has always been inside you. It is when you understand that you don't need anyone to complete you because you are already whole. And from this sense of fullness, you can begin to build a life that is not only filled with external connections, but also with the most meaningful connection of all, the one you have with yourself. The love that arises from this process is not fleeting or conditional. It is a love that remains, that does not depend on circumstances or others' opinions. It is a love that sustains, that empowers, and that guides. From this internal connection, you can face any obstacle because you have understood that in your essence, you are already enough. Not because someone else told you, but because you have discovered it for yourself. The path of those who follow their purpose has never been easy. As you move forward, you understand that solitude, that space which initially seemed like a void, is actually a phase of a process designed to protect you in the deepest part of your being. There is a spark that never goes out, a light that needs to be cultivated before it is shared with the world. This time of introspection is not a withdrawal, but a refuge, a space where you can strengthen yourself and integrate every aspect of you before presenting yourself as your most authentic version. Transformation does not happen amidst the noise. It requires stillness. It needs an environment where you can confront yourself without the distractions of the external world. In this space, life protects you, not because it doubts your ability, but because it knows that everything has its time. Now is a moment of preparation. There is no need to resist or hurry. It is simply a matter of trusting that this process has a purpose, even when clarity is not present. Sometimes, solitude seems like a test, as if life wants to assess your endurance. However, it is not an evaluation, but an act of care. It is life providing you with the necessary time to grow, heal, and become the person you are meant to be. It is not possible to illuminate others without first learning to hold your own light in the darkness. This space, which may seem empty, is actually the place where you learn to do so. When you look at a clear sky, you see stars that seem distant from each other, but what you don't perceive is the invisible web that connects them, the energy that interconnects and keeps them in harmony. This is how this process operates. Even though you may feel disconnected, you are not alone. You are supported by something greater, something that is not always easy to explain, but that you can perceive deep within yourself. That connection remains intact, even in the most difficult moments. It has always been there and will always remain. Solitude does not mark the end of the journey, but an essential stage to assimilate every transformation, every lesson, and every emerging facet of your being. When life takes you away from the familiar, it is not for you to get lost, but for you to rediscover yourself. It is a reminder that before sharing your light with the world, you must learn to keep it within yourself, because that clarity does not come from the outside. It has always been within you, waiting for the moment when you decide to recognize it. Reflect on this. What is it that you truly want to offer the world? Is it something driven by a need for recognition? Or does it come from the most genuine part of your being, the one that knows you have something unique to offer? This period of introspection is an opportunity to find the answer. It is a time to release what does not define you, to leave behind expectations, demands, and the external influences that have tried to shape your identity. It is a reminder that in your most authentic form, you are already enough. It is not possible to rush this process. Transformation follows its own rhythm, like the dawn. You cannot hurry it, but when it finally arrives, it illuminates everything around it. Similarly, each day in this apparent isolation is a preparation, an accumulation of light that will eventually manifest in ways you cannot even imagine today. It is natural to wonder when this process will end, when you will reach the next stage, but the truth is that there is no final destination. There is no specific point of arrival, but a constant evolution, a succession of moments that invite you to dive deeper, to expand, to discover more about your true self and your potential. This journey is not a place to reach, but a path to walk at every moment. When you finally emerge from this period of introspection, you will not be the same. Something within you will have changed, something perceptible to others, though they may not be able to express it precisely. It will not be a superficial change, but a profound transformation, serenity, a clarity, a strength that will remain steadfast in the face of any adversity. That strength does not come from your external achievements, but from the inner work you have done during this time of reflection. It is the result of having faced your own shadows, having gone through solitude, and having found inner balance. The connections you have longed for have not vanished. They are simply waiting for the right moment to manifest. When they finally come, they will be different from the ones before. They will be more genuine, more in tune with who you are in this moment. They will no longer be based on need, but on freedom. They will not be defined by what you can gain, but by what you are capable of sharing. And that is what gives value to this process, not because it leads you to a specific destination, but because it transforms you into someone who moves forward with purpose and clarity. Solitude, therefore, is not an obstacle, but a bridge. It does not represent a pause, but a rebirth. It is a reminder that even in the most isolated moments, you are still being guided, protected, and sustained by a higher force. That force is not outside of you, but is part of your essence. It is the constant connection you have always had with the universe, that energy that flows through everything and reaffirms that you are never truly alone. There is no need to know exactly what the future will be like. Immediate answers are not required. The only thing that matters is trusting in this moment, in this space, and in this process, because it is here where true transformation happens, where the inner light begins to shine more brightly. And when the time is right, you will be prepared, not because you have reached a final point, but because you will have learned to walk your path with the certainty that everything you need already resides within you. This is just part of the journey. Your exploration of the unconscious continues. Click on the next video to continue discovering the teachings and secrets that Carl Jung left for humanity. See you in the next episode on Unconscious Journey.